Welcome to episode 10 of the Lightning Round. I'm your host, Lightning, and with me today is my brand new co-host, Rashidash.
That's me.
And the Lightning Round is brought to you by Philly Games, and their brand new game in development, Welcome to Ponyville. You can go and check out all the details for that on their website, www.phillygames.com. So to start off, this week we have a couple of announcements. As you can see, we have a brand new title card. This was done by Azure Doodle, and it is freaking epic. Interviews that are upcoming for the rest of the month. We've got the interview with Equestrian Dreamers, the makers of My Little Investigation, going on today. Next week, we have the interview with Saberspark and Paleo, the group of people that do the Brony Breakdown podcast on Everfree Radio. The week after that, we have Rob Cakerin 53, the author of My Little Dashie, and the week after that is going to be the week of Everfree Northwest, and we have Twilight Koppel with us that week. So, bunch of interviews that are upcoming, and with that, we'll head into the interview for this week. Alright, first thing up for this week, we have an interview with Equestrian Dreamers. They are the production team behind My Little Investigations. Today we have Gabu X, the lead developer.
Hello.
We have Zeus Assassin, the game case designer.
Hello.
Warpout is the field character artist.
Why, hello there.
Xtrav is the audio engineer.
Glad to be here.
And we also have Princess Rill, which is the VA for Twilight Sparkle.
Hello.
So, why don't you guys first tell us a little bit about yourselves, and a little bit about what other projects you're involved in as well.
Okay. Well, let's see. I joined the Brony fandom in about May of 2011. I've been programming since I was about 15 or so about 12 years now, and it's what I do for a profession. Before I started this game, I also worked on some pony videos and PMVs and trailers and stuff like that, but ever since I started playing this, or making this game, it's kind of taken up most of my free time, so I don't really have any projects beyond it. When I'm not playing it, I also like to play video games, and that's about it, really.
Alright, well, for me, I have joined the fandom back in June of last year, and this is the only project I'm working on. I don't really do anything else for the fandom. I like to check other stuff out, probably talk with people who are involved in the project, but I'm very excited to be here, and I haven't regretted joining this team ever since I joined in August, so it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, so I'm Warpout, and I'm an animation student, just finished up. And I joined this fandom previous year through a friend of mine, and he showed me the yay clip of Fluttershy, and that just sold me right away. I just joined the My Little Investigations team, and since then I've been working really hard on this. It's the only project I've been working on next to school, so much of my free time is spent here. Not much else that I do after that, except for social interactivities and stuff, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, I joined the fandom around September of last year, and I started out as a Brony musician, but being classical, you don't get many projects, so I started audio engineering, and now I work for My Little Investigations, Welcome to Ponyville by Philly Games. I do some stuff for Pony in a Box Productions, who's known for their Doctor Who's adventures, and I do my own show, Mainstream Media, which you can find on YouTube. Plug.
And Real?
Okay, I was waiting. Well, I do a bunch of random, fan dubs and projects and stuff for voice acting. I got into My Little Pony in November because my brother is Brony and he kept telling me to watch it, and finally I gave in. I'm Twilight in a lot of things, like in Welcome to Ponyville, Team Pony, and then I also cosplay. That takes up a lot of my time. I go to anime conventions and things like that.
Alright, so how about giving us a little bit of a detail about how exactly this project started?
Well, I kind of had the random idea of the crossover in general in mid-June of 2011. Mid-July. So I had the week of my birthday off, and I didn't have much else to do, so I basically just, like, in the past I've kind of had week-long projects where I just get an idea for a random game, I mock up a bit of the engine, and then, get something playable, and then I usually tend to forget about it. But at the end of this week, I submitted the video of what I had so far to Equestria Daily, and like I had no idea what to expect, but they put it up on the front page, and everybody's like, I'm throwing money at my screen and nothing's happening. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll make more. So I did, and I put up another video, and Equestria Daily put it up on the front page again, and it kind of went from there. I mean, the extent to which this project has grown from what my expectations of it were I don't think there's any way that I could have been prepared for how it's exploded in scope. Not that I'm complaining, but it's been quite a wild ride.
Yeah, I have to agree. It quite has been a ride, and just getting everything started, because before, in August, it was just me and Gabu, and we've just been pretty much laying out every idea, gameplay mechanics, and that took quite a while. And this is before we decided to IM each other. But yeah, I'm constantly being surprised with the progress of this project. And ever since the addition of the team back in January, it's just been one awesome ride, and hope we can ride it all the way to Case 1 completion and beyond.
Yeah, I tend to, like, every time we kind of reach a hurdle in the path, I tend to kind of have thoughts in the back of my head like, oh, well, maybe this is where it's going to come off the rails, and it's been a nice ride, but like when we first recruited the team, I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea if anybody's going to answer it, but then by the time recruitment ended, we had something like 90 plus applications and a lot of talented people, and every time things needed to come together, things did come together, and it's really been amazing to watch all these things that need to happen end up happening.
So, can you guys tell me exactly what My Little Investigation is about?
So, My Little Investigations kind of began as kind of just a bona fide version of the game Ace Attorney Investigations with Miles Edgeworth. But kind of as it grew, I kind of wanted it to become its own game. So it's more now kind of inspired by it as opposed to copying it. Basically, the idea is one day, in Case 1, Rarity has her gem stolen, and the mayor is recruiting an incredibly incompetent investigation team from Canterlot. So Twilight takes it upon herself to solve the crime, and has so much success for it that she ends up becoming Ponyville's official investigator, which then carries on into new crimes. And in the game, you collect evidence, talk to people, you interrogate people to find out things that they're hiding, and eventually you confront key people in the case to basically break them down and eventually get them to confess to something that's of pivotal importance to cracking the case.
And that's basically what the game is. I guess to put it in simpler terms, it's a game, like you said, inspired by Miles Edgeworth, Ace Attorney Investigations, but it's just a visual novel, a franchise that's pretty much evolved and grown ever since it came to the States in 2006. And Gabo and I, we just found this to be a natural fit between the gameplay style, which he described, and then our initial ideas, how we're going to incorporate that using My Little Pony characters. It just became a natural fit, and over time just became its own game.
And apparently Hasbro found out too, because they made the mystery on the Friendship Express.
Yeah. I was very worried when that came out, and I was very glad to see that nothing completely wrecked our premise from that episode. I think one thing I should mention is that I think one of my major motivations for it as well is that at the time in July of 2011, there weren't really any games like Brony fan games that I was aware of that had that really kind of focused on the story and the characters. Like there was Fighting is Magic, but which is the most prominent one. But I mean that's a wonderful, very professionally made game. But it for me at least it didn't really capture the magic behind the characters and the character interactions and stuff like that. And when I thought about my Ace Attorney and how character driven and plot driven and how interesting the stories were and how its main attraction was how, watching the characters interact with each other, it really seemed like a very natural fit for My Little Pony, since My Little Pony as well, one of its major attractions is, watching the characters, the character development, and stuff like that.
So anyone else want to say about the question?
I think we're good.
All right.
So what exactly goes into developing a game like this?
A lot. It is basically all of our team members typically are working in parallel on the case. Like, to start things off, Zeus Assassin and I put together a full walkthrough that explains all the steps that a player is going to need to get through the case, and then we put together a full script that is the actual dialogue, as opposed to just kind of like a bullet point list of what the player is going to do. And then once we have those two things, those basically specify full scope of everything that's going to need to go into the case. So after we have those, then we put together basically just a list of all the things that we need from each team member. So, for example, from the dialogue character manager, or dialogue character artist will have all the characters and which expressions we want. From the field character artist, we'll have all the characters, and we'll get walking and idle animations from them. We'll get all the backgrounds that we needed, all the cutscenes we need, the background songs that we need, and then once we have all of that laid out, then we basically just hand that off to the artists on the team, and they go off and come back with results. We give them feedback, and it's kind of just an iterative process from there to get all of the material that we need. And then once we have the material, then we just lump it all into the game, implement it, and it all comes together.
Yeah, another key thing that makes this project go is definitely our use of Skype, because communication is definitely key between each of the team members. It's good to know how they're doing, where they're at in the project, they need any help, and definitely that has helped us get stuff done a lot quicker. And in terms of the voice actors, of how we get them rolling along with this project, I pretty much host every week what we call a live feedback session, and in these sessions we basically go through the script line by line, and we have the voice actor or actress act out each line with different takes, and we just give them feedback on the spot. And so far, it's pretty much been nothing but successful, and it's also been a lot of fun. Lots of crazy moments that I wish we would record, but sadly we haven't. So I'm sure Ro can attest to the shenanigans we have during those sessions.
Yeah.
All right, so you went over kind of the visual aspects and the voice in the game, but what kind of music can we expect in the game?
So Trot Pilgrim has done a really good job so far of really kind of incorporating My Little Pony themes with Ace Attorney themes. Like some songs from the game, for like the kind of field overworld music for Ponyville is very strongly inspired by My Little Pony, whereas, for example, the interrogation music is much more strongly inspired. I think he's not here, so I don't want to speak for him too much, but I believe it's very strongly inspired by Ace Attorney. And we're constantly blown away by the way in which he very, very masterfully blends the two styles together and creates something that's somewhat of one, somewhat of the other, and somewhat all of its own. So as for what kind of music you can expect, there's many typical sort of Ace Attorney style stuff. Like we already have the logic theme type and the interrogation theme type thing. And I mean, so you can expect that a lot of songs inspired from that. And I mean, there'll also be more overworld field type theme songs. And that's about it, unless you had something specific that you're asking about.
Yeah, players can definitely expect just a healthy mix. Even some of the more pony songs that we have lined up for the game, they're going to have bits of the Ace Attorney feel in them. It's going to come from a large variety of instruments, so people can expect anything from orchestral to some of the more electronic sounds, to even use of the drum sets using Ace Attorney. So it will be a very familiar feeling for fans of the series and of the show. And one more thing that I'd like to add is that Trot Trot likes to use a bunch of background cues. So if you were to listen to some of the background music from the show, Trot's been taking a lot of inspiration from that and implementing it into his tune. So that's another thing to look out for when players listen to the soundtrack.
Alright, so is the game done with a pre-made engine, or did you make one from scratch for this game?
It is a completely custom engine built from the ground up.
Although, do you want to talk about what it was originally made in and the port that we made to Java and all that stuff?
Yeah, give us a little bit of background on how it was made.
So it was originally programmed in C# and XNA. There's no real reason why I picked that other than that was the platform that I was most familiar with. It kind of started as when it originally started in the video that I put out in June or July 23rd or something like that. It pretty much everything in it was hard coded, which means that it was just loading from the executable file itself. There was no data file or anything like that. But as it grew in scope, and as I quickly came to realize that this thing was getting bigger than I had expected it to, I kind of took a step back and designed it a little better. So basically, when it was at this point, it's basically so the case itself and all of the resources that it needs are stored in an archive that contains an XML file that contains all the case stuff and all the images and audio and stuff that are needed in the game, and it basically loads everything from there. There's kind of, I don't know exactly how detailed you want me to get, but basically there's 3 different levels. There's locations, which are basically like overworlds in the field, like for example Carousel Boutique exterior or the bridge or town square. And then within each of those, you can define characters that will appear, and then those have character encounters that are associated with them. Each of those in turn have conversations associated with them, and conversations can be just simple questions, they can be interrogations, or they can be confrontations. It's a very hierarchical design. It makes the game quite manageable and kind of modular in terms of that it's quite easy to add new characters or new locations or stuff like that. That's a general overview. If you have any specific questions about how it works or anything like that, I can answer those.
Nothing really specific. Just was wondering how it was made and stuff like that.
In terms of how it was made, it kind of started from the lowermost entry in that hierarchy and sort of grew up from there. Like I started with just a conversation, and when you start the game, all you do is you just enter into that conversation, and you can take it to completion, and then your ride's done, it's over. Then I went up a level and added in encounters, so that gave you multiple conversations. Then I added in locations, which was the first, which made the character able to actually walk around as opposed to just be stuck in this one conversation with this person. That was basically, once we had that, then that was most of the engine. There were still a couple things needing to be done, like evidence combination and confrontations, but at that point, most of the engine was defined at that point. That was when I put up the location video, which was in November, I think. October, November, I can't remember exactly when it was.
October.
October, okay.
All right. So you were talking about the features and how the game's designed. Is there any special features or appearances you can tell us about?
Could you be a bit more specific?
Anything, like you talked about how there's locations, conversations, and interrogations and stuff like that. Is there any special features, maybe one-time things that happen in the game?
Well, I wouldn't say one time, but things that we really emphasized in the videos leading up to the formation of the team were the confrontation system and the partner system. And believe me, just planning those 2 things out took a while and went through a lot of changes before we finally agreed on something we liked. But the partner system, it's going to be, as we said in the video where we talked about it, it's pretty much going to involve ponies involved in the cases, so it can pretty much be anybody, any pony. So they're going to have their own passive abilities which can help unlock conversations, their active abilities abilities which you can use against opponents during interrogations and confrontations. So players will learn more as we release more info about it. But yeah, those are pretty much the two big things we added to the gameplay formula that we could talk about right now.
I think the one thing that I should stress there is that both of those are completely new for My Little Investigations, and so that's kind of an example of where we started with the Ace Attorney formula, but then saw places where we thought could be augmented or improved upon. Like the partner system kind of came from the fact that Ace Attorney Investigations had partners, but it was pretty lame. Like the partners did absolutely nothing except for just making a few comments here or there. Whereas we saw a much more involved sort of role for partners, such that they can actually affect things in the case. The identity of your partner can change how people react, and they can help you solve the case or catch someone lying or stuff like that.
So what kind of save feature does your game offer?
So as of the demo that came out in May 5th. We haven't implemented yet, but when we do implement it, it will basically, players will be able to, anytime players are out in the field, they'll be able to save. So basically there'll be, when you're walking around Ponyville or wherever you are, there'll be a save button and you click it and it just, saves all the state of your current game, and then when you can pick it up from there. One thing that we were thinking of, but ended up deciding against was saving in the like Ace Attorney allows you to save in the middle of a conversation, but that's mainly because Ace Attorney is a handheld game. So since ours isn't a handheld game, there's no real pressing need to make it so you can save everywhere, because you don't have a battery that's going to be running out. And plus, that save feature can kind of be abused in terms of making it so that the threat of game over is not actually really a threat, more just an annoyance, because you can just load your save game. So yeah, basically the save game feature will be when you're out in the field, you can save your game. That's about it.
There's also plans to be multiple save files, so it's not going
Right.
to be just like the handheld games where there was just one save file. I don't know how many yet, but I expect maybe around 3 or 5 or. I don't know.
I mean, you don't really need to put a limit on it, because you can just keep making new files on your hard drive. So
True.
I mean, when you look at something like the Final Fantasy games, the lists of save game spots go on and on and on, because it's just based on the space available in your memory card. So it's probably the same here.
All right.
So is there any particular time frame in the My Little Pony universe that this takes place, or is it more of a kind of a fanon world?
I don't think there's any, the problem with making something that takes as long as this is that, by the time we're done, I mean, this started when season 2 was just, the very start was in July, which is after in between season 1 and season 2. Then the first case started getting production seriously underway in around November and December, which, I mean, season 2 was just getting going, and now season 2 is over and we're still working on it. So I mean, if we put a hard saying this is after this episode and no further, then we can run the risk of a future episode kind of running into canonical problems. So it's kind of better to design it such that it could happen at just about any time. There are a few spots that kind of put it after certain episodes on account of the fact that references are made to what happened in that episode. But in terms of the exact time frame when we're intending this to happen, it's not really very well defined. We are doing our best to accommodate things that happen in the series. We don't want it to be, we do want it to feel like it's, part of the show, not like it's, off in its own little world type thing, because that would kind of, I think, lessen the connection that it would have to the show that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very tricky process from now on. We do try to keep as close to the canon as possible and try to limit the use of original characters, but there's probably going to be a point where we're going to have to put our hook down, just say this is our story. It'd be too late to change major plot points, and we just have to kind of roll with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the mystery on the Friendship Express. kind of changed a few things in terms of that we previously had Twilight having no experience sleuthing at all, and then that kind of ruined that, so we had to change the script slightly. But if, for example, in season 3, before this started, we had an episode in which, like, the Diamond Dogs were completely, reformed and became, regular members of Ponyville, then that would basically junk this entire script. So at that point, we'd probably just be like, whatever. We'll acknowledge the fact that this is no longer canonical, but we're not going to, trash the entire case and start from scratch just because that happened.
Alright, so you guys were at BronyCon, and can you guys tell us about what you did while you were there and how things turned out for your, promoting your project?
We didn't really do a whole lot at BronyCon. Basically, the only presence that we had was Don Mew, our technical designer, set up a computer in the game room that was running My Little Investigations, and people could go up to it and play it and stuff like that. But, I mean, we didn't have any panels or anything like that, so it was kind of subdued, I suppose the word might be. We do have a much larger presence in Everfree Northwest coming up. We'll have a panel there, so we'll probably be more involved with that.
As far as promoting the game goes, recently, like around the time BronyCon hit, we did become pretty much corporate partners with Philly Games, the creators of Walkieville. So that was definitely a huge step for us, and I know they're going to help us as much as we're going to help them. But as far as personal experience, Prince as well, Real Prince went to BronyCon. Same with Xtrav, and do you guys have anything to add about your experience there?
Yeah, I was at BronyCon. I cosplayed as Twilight, like a detective version, and anytime anyone asked me, like, if I was from the episode, I'd tell them about My Little Investigations, so I was kind of promoting there, and I went around and, like, I talked about the demo to people in the game room. That's about it.
Yeah, we did stand by the demo and then
a lot.
draw attention to people. She would do voices as they were said in the actual demo, so it was fun to surprise people.
I didn't actually know that. That's cool.
All right, so you mentioned you're going to Everfree Northwest. Do you want to kind of expand on exactly what you're going to be doing there, and if there's any other conventions you'll have a presence at?
So basically, we'll have a hour-long panel at which we'll be discussing a general overview of the game and, like, the history for the game for people who aren't familiar with it, and then we'll have most of the rest of the panel will basically have gameplay that will show off the new stuff that we've been doing since May, and that's about it. I mean, it's kind of something that's interesting to present, not so interesting to talk about in terms of overview. We do not currently have any other conventions that we'll be going to, although, I mean, that doesn't mean that we will not ever have any other conventions. It's kind of just up in the air as to which conventions there are and what availability our team members have. I mean, we definitely are not opposed to going to others. We'll have to wait and see.
Now, you talked about the voice acting in the game, and I know that the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney games don't have any voices. It's all just written out, and the player is supposed to read it. Was there any reason that you decided to go away from that and actually have voice acting in the game?
Well, I think one of the main reasons why they don't have voice acting is because they're all handheld games. So, I mean, you have a lot of space limitations as a result like that. I mean, they do kind of have voice acting in terms of, like, the objection and hold it bubbles, but most modern games have voice acting, and I think the entire reason is because space is no longer so much a limitation. And since our game is on the computer and is only constrained by the size of the player's hard drives, I mean, hard drives typically, I don't even know if you can buy a hard drive that's like smaller than 200 gigabytes or so. It just seemed like the right thing to do, because when we put voice acting in the game, it really, kind of made the characters come alive, as opposed to the kind of you have to imagine it type of thing when you just have silent text being drawn to the screen.
And I'd just like to remind everyone that we do have an option to turn off voices, so you can still have the classic Ace Attorney experience, and they'll still have the interjections in there. And so for players who want to go about that route and want the classic Ace Attorney experience, we still have that option. But yeah, we figured why not add voice acting? We're trying to make this as close to the show as possible, and a big part of what drew fans to the show was the voice acting. And whatever criticism we get, whatever, talent we recruit, it really doesn't matter to us. We just want to kind of continue forward and just continue on our quest to make this game feel alive and a part of the show.
Yeah, and I definitely would say that I do not for 1 minute regret adding voice acting, because whenever you add voice acting, kind of you run into the question of when you come across emotional scenes and impactful scenes and stuff like that, it really goes to the voice actor to really make that scene come alive. And I have to say that all of our voice actors have done an absolutely phenomenal job in making each scene come alive, and I think it will really add to the player's experience in the end as a result.
Now, what is the extent of the voice acting that you guys have? Is there a really large list of characters that you got for this game?
Well, basically every character that's in the game has a voice actor associated with them. I think the full list is, I think we have 11 characters who are voice actors, who have voice acting associated with them, something like that. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head.
It's about 7 voice actors distributed over 11 parts.
Yeah.
For case 1.
Right.
Even so, we almost have over 1,000 files of just vocal lines, so there's going to be a lot of voice acting in this game.
We even have plans to voice some background ponies, whether it be for side dialogue or just something written in the script. They'll be voiced, so you're not going to have those awkward silences in the script. You're either going to go one way or the other. You're either going to go not voiced or fully voiced. There's really no in between that makes sense in my eyes.
Yeah, we considered only making cut scenes voiced or only the main plot points voiced, but I mean the more we talked about it, the more we realized if we're gonna put voice acting in, you might as well just do it all. And I mean we asked our voice actors at one point if they're okay with that, and the answer was basically unanimously yes, so why not?
Although I just remembered something, there was a game that we were thinking about that had partial voice acting, and that was the Professor Layton series.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But even then we decided we might as well just go the full way.
Yeah. And I mean, the Professor Layton series probably suffers from the same thing as Phoenix Wright, in that it's probably it's a handheld series again, so it's probably more spatial constraints as to why they don't voice everything as opposed to specific design decision for it. So
I'm sure the team itself would do full voice acting if they had the space.
All right, so do you have any idea what kind of locations we can expect in the game? Obviously, the first case was in Ponyville, and you saw a few things in there. Do you have any plans of having cases in Canterlot or any other places like that?
I will say yes, and that is all that I will say at this point in time.
Yes, you will be able to explore places outside of Ponyville, but anything would be spoilerific at this point. So just stay patient, and we'll get to that when we get to it.
Fair enough, I guess. How many cases are there going to be in the game?
We currently have 4 cases in one level of planning or another. But the game, the cases are designed such that they're not directly connected to one another. When you play an Ace Attorney game, you typically have, connection between the cases such that when you reach the final case, there'll often be the case, all the cases that came before it were masterminded by some guy who, in the end, and then that, when you take that guy down, well, you win and it's all over. That's not really the cases for the cases that we're developing. So the fact that we have 4 in planning doesn't mean that there will be only 4. Given that this case has taken over a year now in development, it's kind of, I think talking about exactly how many cases we're going to do is kind of all depends on the team and how things go with this case and then future cases. I would be happy to just keep doing it, but I mean maybe some team members will have other obligations and stuff like that. So I mean it's kind of hard to say at this point. At this point we're basically just focused on finishing the first case. If everybody wants to do case 2 after that, then we'll do case 2 after that, and after that, I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't even know what time it will be at which point that case would be done. So it's like we have cases in development, but I think it's kind of silly to plan that far in ahead since it's going to take us a long time to even complete the first and second cases.
Right, even though they're going to take a long time. Once, we get the hang of creating this first case, I feel like that things will kind of snowball and things will get quicker as people get more experience. But yeah, it's still an uncertainty right now. And
things will get quicker, but we'll probably also get, longer cases as a result, so it may kind of average out.
Well, you never know, but we'll always keep our arms open in case, we need more help here. That reminds me about recruitment, because we did say back in January that this wasn't the end, that there's potential down the line, that if we feel like we can go faster and if the artists are okay with it, that we could have more artists, more whatever we need. But, that's something we'll worry about down the line. But for now, we're just worried about case one. But I don't know if you want to talk about this now, Gabu, but you did mention earlier that you had plans about a case creator that fans implement.
Yeah.
So that's something fans can look forward to.
Yes. I don't really have that much to talk about it at the moment since it's not really what we're focused on. But yeah, so at one point we do hope to release something like that, which maybe we'll cover the in-between time between official cases.
Okay, so speaking about the time between cases, is there any replay value in each case?
That all depends on what you mean by replay value. Like, do you mean like extra things to do that you couldn't do in the first playthrough or something like that?
Anything that would make a player want to play through it a second time.
That all depends on the player. Like we've had some people on our forums who just reported that they played the demo like 20 times, which is not something that I was expecting. So obviously that person found replay value in the demo. In terms of in terms of things where you play through it once and then if you play through it again, things will be drastically different or there'll be extra stuff to get and stuff like that. We don't really have anything like that planned. It's more going to be like the Ace Attorney series where we have one big story that we're focused on, and the player will take it from start to completion at the end, and then when they reach the end, then the story will be over. So
one thing I can say is that we do have a lot of side dialogue for this game, so I'm pretty sure there's going to be things that fans haven't presented. I'm sure once you replay cases, and because usually when I replay attorney cases, I'm usually focused on getting the stuff done with some side dialogue stuff, but when I replay it and I try everything, there's always usually something new, this little Easter egg or this little thing behind the game that I'm sure a lot of fans will enjoy. So for replay value, the biggest thing here will definitely have to be the side dialogue, which has been, quite honest, very, very fun to write, especially with Gabu and Nat Canadian. What can I say? Most Canadians I met, they're really funny people. So I'm glad to be working with them.
And I'd actually like to go into your partnership with Philly Games. How did that all get started, and what exactly do you do for one another?
So basically, Writer's Block from Philly Games approached us basically asking if we'd be interested in something like that, and it seemed like we didn't have a whole lot to lose, so why not? In terms of what we do for each other, there's nothing really official. Like we don't have daily contact and tons of overlap between resources and stuff like that. The main idea behind it is just like if we need something, then we can see if their team can provide it. And vice versa, and then they can provide, they can play our games and provide feedback, or, we can discuss certain design stuff with them and use them as a sounding board. If we need external help on anything, maybe one of our team members is overworked or something like that, then maybe we can talk to them. There's nothing really official. It's mainly kind of just an as needed type of basis. Then they'll be there if we need them, and we'll be here if they need us. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that one thing that we are doing now is that we do promote each other's projects when we're doing interviews like this, or if we're at panels or something, because definitely for any project to succeed, the name and the idea has to be presented out there. So that's something we're doing now, obviously, and something we expect they'll do for us if they get involved in interviews or anything that involves public exposure. And I don't know if they actually talked to you about this, but they've actually managed to get their logo on a moving truck that's going around the nation as we speak. And they also got their logo on, I believe, like a NASCAR car. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Some kind of race car. I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, it was
right.
a Pro Series rally truck, I believe.
Oh yeah, great.
On the topic of cooperation, Rill and I are also on the team of Welcome to Ponyville, so you might see some kind of little things overlap between the games as well.
Yeah, potential for jokes and stuff like that.
So, Real, do you do the voice for Twilight Sparkle and Welcome to Ponyville as well then?
Yes, I do. Actually, Writer's Block actually asked me originally to get the partnership going on. Like, he asked me to contact Gabulins.
Yeah, that is how it happened, wasn't it? I didn't even remember that, but yeah, you're right.
All right, so is there anything the Brony community at large can do to help you guys out? Is there anything you want from your fans to maybe try and help you out?
Honestly, the biggest thing is that keeps me personally going, and I'd imagine other people going, is people, anticipating the game, people liking the game, people giving us positive feedback and stuff like that. I think in terms of like resources and stuff like that, we have everything we need, but definitely, the support of the fans is absolutely paramount. If I didn't believe that that there were a lot of people out there who are eagerly anticipating the game, I think I would find it pretty hard to keep myself motivated. Whereas as it is, there are tons of people who want it, and it's like, well, these people are depending on us, and we got to give them the best game we can.
Another thing that they could do is definitely just spread the word. Spread the word about our project. Let us know about your personal experiences about it. Definitely communication is key in making this project successful, and we definitely need all the support we can get in order for this game to continue to grow. But there's also something down the line that I can't really talk about much yet that will involve the fan community, but more info on that in a couple weeks, or maybe this week, depends.
Probably at least next week or so.
Yeah, but there will be something that they'll get involved in other than just support. Because support's nice, but having something from the fandom is also pretty cool too.
All right, so when can we expect a release date for the first case?
You can expect it when the case is done. Looking back on it, we put a hard release date in advance for the May 5th demo. And I kind of feel like for a volunteer project like this, that may have been a mistake, because a lot of us crammed a whole lot more time than we would have liked into, getting everything ready for it in the days leading up to that release. And I was personally awake for like 39 hours straight trying to get it up, which very nearly led to me having a mental breakdown when I found like a game-breaking bug at like 9 p.m. on May 5th. For a demo, that kind of thing is okay with like, some missing features and just being rushed and stuff like that, because people kind of expect it to be, just like a unfinished game that they can play, but there are issues that are expected to be worked out. For the official release, not really so much. People are going to be expecting it to be, very polished, very clean, all the issues worked out and stuff like that. And given that we're all volunteers on it, like, we do this game in our spare time, we don't do it as a job or anything like that. The chance of something happening in one of our lives that will make, us have to cram again if we do give a solid deadline is high enough that I think it probably would. The chance of the game, both us and the game suffering if we were to do that, I think is high enough that we don't really want to do that this time. So we do have an internal schedule that drives us and drives our motivation and stuff like that, but we probably will not release an official public release date until we're pretty darn certain that this game is already done and ready to be released.
Right, but I can say one thing. One of our goals that we kind of set for a while back is we would like, I'm not saying in release dates now, but we would like to have this game out by the end of the year. That's been something I've been basing because, well, Gavin hasn't really mentioned this, but I actually organize a lot of the schedules. I set deadlines. I set everything that needs to get done in a certain amount of time so that we make progress and we can keep everyone busy and focused.
Yeah, this game would be completely lost if it wasn't for Seas Assassins.
Yeah, but anyway, no release date, but we would like to get it out by the end of the year. That's my target goal, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and we'll do our best to get it out as soon as we can.
Yeah, please do not report Case 1 will be out by end of year. That is not a promise.
Oh, but I don't know if we should mention now, but there may not be a Case 1 release this year, but there may be something down the line. Well, let's say a patch that we're thinking about happening that will incorporate all the new stuff. So we don't know when that will come out, but it'll definitely come out before the end of the year.
All right. I think that's pretty much covering everything that we needed to talk about. So thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll move on to the rest of the podcast. And that was our interview with Equestrian Dreamers. And with that, we'll move on to the weather report for this week. To start out, we have an announcement coming in from Pony in the Box Productions, the guys behind Doctor Who's Adventure. They are currently doing a fan art contest where, pretty simply, you just draw a bit of fan art for the Doctor Who's Adventures, and if they like it, they will actually ask you what kind of plushie you want, and they'll make you one. There's a couple rules that go along with this, and you can check that out in the show notes.
And that brings us to a little bit of news about GameLoft's 6 upcoming titles. One of them which being a My Little Pony game. Now, we don't have too much information on it, but it looks like we'll be building our own versions of Ponyville, with a few little mini games thrown in there as well. More information on that can be found in the show notes.
Next thing on the list, we have some reminders coming in from Everfree Northwest. As of Tuesday this past week, there were still open spots. I haven't heard anything about them selling out yet, but there may still be some registration spots open for Everfree Northwest. So if you want one of those tickets, head on over there right now. The link for that is in the show notes.
And we have more information coming out of Canterlot Gardens as well. They have actually announced a lot of information, one of which being 2 new special guests, Peter New, aka voice of Big Mac, and Daniel Ingram, that one guy that brings us all those awesome songs. And it seems like this is the last chance to get pre-registration priced tickets from now until about August 20th. You have single and 3-day badges for $15 and $35 respectively. They are also going to have a charity auction and a silent auction. You can find more information on that in the show notes.
Earlier this week, Megan McCarthy was included on a writer's panel over at Nerdist. And she talks a little bit about the writing for the show, but the big thing that came up during the interview was that she confirmed that Season 3 is going to be 13 episodes. And this is kind of, started a lot of rumors. There's people saying that, there's 2 studios working on it, and so, they're working on 13, the other studio's working on the other 13 episodes, or maybe they're working on 13 episodes and the other studio's working on a movie, and it's just, there's so many rumors going on right now that we can't say anything for sure. The only thing that we know now is that Season 3 is going to be 13 episodes long. So, you can check out that interview with the link in the show notes.
And we also have the Fallout Equestria hard books that have arrived. A while ago, someone on Facebook actually started taking signatures for people who wanted to get them mass-produced professionally. Well, they actually finally came in. Unfortunately, one of the volumes came in with water damage. Hopefully they can take care of all of that. And if you want some more information on that, you can find it in the show notes, as well as maybe getting your hands on one after this run has been shipped out to those who have already paid.
Next thing on the list is the Wheel of Fine Pony contest. The contest has moved into the voting phase of the competition now. They've had a huge amount of entries. If you remember, it was Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, and Twilight Sparkle that were the 3 ponies that you could do entries for. Rainbow Dash had 241 entries, Fluttershy had 231 entries, and Twilight Sparkle had 228 entries. So pretty even split there. And you can go on to their website and start voting for which ones you think are the best. And the link for that is in the show notes.
And we have more convention news, this time coming from Everfree Northwest. Once again, Daniel Ingram is confirmed to be at the convention, as well as Andrew Francis, which you might know plays Twilight Sparkle's brother, Shining Armor. More information with that is available in the show notes.
And with that, we'll move into our PMTV segment, starting with the videos for this week. The first one showed up in a nightly roundup earlier this week, and the label for it was Your Daily Dose of Random. This one's called Monoshai and Wabniar. For those of you that don't know, this one is done with two variations of Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash. Monoshai is a version of Fluttershy that talks in a monotone, almost like robotic voice, and Wabniar is a version of Rainbow Dash that says everything backward. And they use these two characters to sing the Find a Friend song. Find a Pet song. And it's hilarious, and just I haven't heard anything like it recently, so that one is definitely worth a view. We've also got a couple of Doctor Who's videos that came out. The first one is done by Pierce Smolder, which is the director behind the Doctor Who's an Assistant series, and they actually came out with a Q&A, their second set of Q&A panels, so you can go and check that one out. The second one we have is a short done by the Pony in a Box group, Doctor Who's Adventures, and they came out with a sequel to their first video that came out called Good Night, Good Night, and this one's called Good Day, Good Night, and both of those videos are extremely good, so you can go and check that out in the show notes. The next video we have is an animated commission that was done by Dadley Studios, and they actually have ponified the intro to Fallout Equestria, and it actually reminds me a lot of the intro to Fallout 3. So definitely go and check that out. That is done. That's very well done, and definitely worth taking a look at. The last thing we have is a literal video done by Miss Bunny Swan. This one is becoming popular, and it's funny as you would expect. And you can definitely go and check that out. All the links for these are in the show notes.
And that brings us to our music section. First up, we have a song called Zenith, Centuries Since by Anne the Rainfall. And this particular song, the artist says that he was just kind of playing around on his guitar, and suddenly he almost came up with an entire song, and he challenged himself to turn it into an entire song. And the song itself is entirely recorded. There's no samples or virtual instruments or anything like that. And it turned out into a really, really good song that isn't like most of the songs you see with electronic instruments or anything like that. And it's something definitely worth checking out. The next one we have up is called The Same Rainbows by Archers of Agincourt. And this one is actually based on the episode The Cutie Mark Chronicles, I believe, and is basically about Twilight's perspective, first being a little bit disdainful of her other ponies, and then the retrospective after she became close friends with the rest of the main six. It's a very good song and definitely worth a listen. Up next, we have a song called Cadence by Andrew Clarkson. This song, the artist actually used parts of Cadence's lines from This Day Aria and his own vocals to create this song. He also says it was inspired by This Day Aria as well. This one's a pretty unique song. A lot of the songs you see that uses mixes or vocals from the show are often short vocals from the show, but this one actually uses longer vocals and tries to build a song around major vocals from the show itself. And we also had 2 new albums released. The first one was by Tarby and is titled Uncooked. It's actually I'd call it a pretty alternative style, and is kind of like easy listening, and they all sound really good and kind of a lot more chill than what you would expect from most of the vocal songs we get. The next album was My Little Pop Punk Pony by Forest Rain. This one doesn't need too much explanation given the title, but it has songs like Join the Herd in it, which was a a cover of a bona fide cover of Offspring's You're Gonna Go Far Kid, along with other songs like Autumn, a pop punk version of Jackalap's Autumn song, and is definitely worth a listen. And of course, both of these albums are Name Your Price, so you don't really have any excuse. Go listen to them. If you like them, you can buy them. You can find links to all of these in the show notes. And that brings us to our casting call. We have a casting call for an animated music film titled Journey of the Spark. It's a pretty interesting look. Basically, the synopsis goes, Twilight Sparkle accidentally causes a rift between her and her friends and runs away. She feels that her friends can never forgive her. Without giving away too much, that's the basic synopsis of it. Their deadlines for submissions are August 3rd. The casting call itself lists quite a few characters that they need. I believe they've already gotten Rainbow Dash, but I believe they're still looking for Spike, Queen Chrysalis, Princess Luna, and Nightmare Moon. The deadline is August 3rd, and they also have a production blog you can find at fimsparkmovie.tumblr.com, as well as a link to the casting call from voiceactingalliance.com in the show notes.
So we're going to end off this podcast today with the fanfic suggestion for this week. This week I picked the fanfic Dance by On the Moon. This one is all about Scootaloo and ending up getting her cutie mark. And it's It sounds like this is going to be the start of like a new series that he's going to put out, because he said he's already got plans to start writing one for Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle as well. So definitely go and give this one a look, because we need an episode like this in the next season. So this is a good start for that. So with that, that'll be our episode for this week. Be sure to tune in next week. We got the guys from Brony Breakdown, Saber Spark, and Paleo, and we'll see you next time.
Now a rainbow's tale isn't quite as nice as the story we knew of sugar and spice, but a rainbow is easy once you get to know it, with the help of the magic of a Pegasus device. Mythology, it's easy to misjudge that floating city with its alluring decor and social psychology, but with all great things comes a great responsibility, that of Clydesdale's being weather stability. How, you ask, are they up to the task? To which the answer isn't a simple facility. Single Rainbow Factory, where not a single soul gets through. In the Rainbow Factory, where your fears and hearts come true. In the Rainbow Factory.